Hello everyone, I'm Alex Dykes, and on today's child seat review we'll be talking about the 2014 Mazda 3 5-door hatchback. This is a Graco Classic Ride child seat. We're going to see how well 1, 2, and 3 seats fit inside the 2014 Mazda 3. If you're looking for the regular review on the Mazda 3, then just go ahead and click that banner at the bottom of your screen and be transported over to the full drive section of the review on the Mazda 3. Much of what we're going to be talking about applies not only to this 5-door, but also the 4-door sedan. So if you're looking for a 4-door sedan child seat review, we don't have one yet, but just about everything that I'm going to be talking about here, except for the trunk portion, will apply to that sedan as well. First, let's talk about access. The Mazda 3 has a fairly sloping rear profile and a fairly reclined rear hatch glass. That means that overall the space isn't used quite as practically as something like a Volkswagen Golf, which tends to have a very square profile. Still, we have a relatively square rear door opening, which makes it easier to get child seats in and out of the car. You don't really have to duck down too far to get them in and out, and you don't have to bend over funny or turn the child seat strangely to get it in and out of the car. It is a little bit more tricky to access the back in the sedan because the door is shaped slightly differently than the hatchback. As with most hatchbacks, you'll find the top tether anchors for child seats right here on the back of the seat. That actually makes it fairly easy to install the child seats in the seat. These headrests are adjustable and they do raise up far enough to be able to put that top tether anchor right there through the headrest, so you don't need to remove them from the car. Like most cars sold in America, you'll find latch anchors on only the outboard rear seats. So if you install a child seat in the center, you're going to have to use the lap and shoulder belt for that. Never use these outboard latch anchors for a center-mounted child seat. The car's not designed for that. If you have any questions about installing child seats, I encourage you to visit a certified child seat installer or a certified child seat inspector. You'll find some links down there in the description of the video on how you can find one of those. Latch anchors are fairly easy to use in this car, and they don't really interfere with the passenger in the car. So they're decently behind the padding, and there's no hard plastic box around them like you'll find in some cars that tend to hit people on the butt. So you won't see that in the Mazda 3. The seats are very comfortable for both passengers, and they're also fairly easy to install these latch anchors right there. Rear legroom in the Mazda 3 is generous for this segment, which means that the distance between this seat back and the front seat is among the largest in this segment. However, you'll notice that this is still a compact car, so we don't have a whole lot of room between these seats, and that really affects the rearward-facing child seat installation. This front seat is adjusted for me at 6 feet tall, and I tend to like to sit in a fairly upright position, especially when I'm driving a manual car like this. And there's very little room between this child seat and the front seat. That's kind of a dangerous position because if you're rear-ended, front seats do move a great deal depending on who's in the seat and how heavy they are. So you always want a few inches of room between the child seat in a rearward-facing position and the front seat. That may mean that larger drivers or taller drivers may have a bit of a problem fitting rearward-facing child seats in a Mazda 3. But again, this is just standard for the category, and this has a little bit more room than most of the other options out there. So if you're looking at a Volkswagen Golf or something like a Ford Focus, you're going to find even less room in those options. So this would probably be the more spacious option for you. When installing multiple child seats in the rear of the Mazda 3, it's important to remember that this is still a compact car. However, it is wider across the back than the majority of the competition, which makes it a lot easier to install multiple child seats. Most notably, this middle child seat is not sitting on my belt buckle, so I can actually strap myself into this outboard seat fairly easily, which is something that you don't find necessarily even in every mid-size sedan. There are a number of mid-size sedans out there where this middle child seat would be right on top of my belt buckle. I can actually close the door, and I have a little bit of room here. Not a whole lot, but this is something that I could do for a short while. That larger overall width versus the competition allows the Mazda 3 to do a 3-across child seat configuration with these Graco Classic Ride 50 child seats. We have a hair of room between the child seat and the door as well. I can just barely stick my hand in there, which is better than nothing. If you are going to do this, you may want to consider narrower child seats, which would probably be a little bit safer because we do have side curtain airbags in the Mazda 3. You want to make sure that those don't interact with your child in a negative way in an accident. It's much easier to install child seats in this configuration than it is in the Volkswagen Golf, the Toyota Corolla, the Honda Civic, as well as the Ford Focus, because the Mazda 3 is just wider back here. Part of that's the way the doors are designed, and part of that's the way the rear bench is designed as well. In those other competitors, you may be able to close the doors, but I wouldn't exactly call that situation safe because closing the doors would be jamming the seats together in the car rather than actually having some free space between the child seat in its installed position and the door when it's actually closed. With just over 20 cubic feet of cargo space, the Mazda 3 5-door has a lot of room back here in the cargo hold. It's more than you'll find in a Ford Focus, a Volkswagen Golf, or even a Lexus CT200H. It means that it's very easy to fit 3 child seats in the back, even though these Graco Classic Ride 50 seats aren't exactly small child seats. And you can also stick the largest roller bag you can carry on a domestic flight right in there with those child seats. You have to squeeze it in just a little bit. Most importantly, the hatch closes easily and the tonneau cover that's automatically lifted and raised with the hatchback goes down and it sits in a normal position, so it doesn't look like you have anything stuffed in that trunk. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Again, I'm Alex Dykes, and this has been the 2014 Mazda 3 hatchback. Go ahead and click down there at the bottom of your screen to subscribe to this channel, as well as to watch the full video review of the Mazda 3 hatchback. I also encourage you to like this video, comment on this video, tell me what you liked and didn't like about this video. You can also share this video with your friends, and you can also tell me what additional video segments you'd like to see in the future, because the child seat video segments are the result of viewer feedback. That's from viewers like you that tell me what you'd like to see me talk about when I review a car. You can also send me emails to alex@alexandautos.com, find me at facebook.com/alexandautos, and we'll see you next week.